I learned my daughter was planning to erase me from my own life because her phone lit up in my hand with a message she never meant for me to see. Miranda, you left this on the counter, I said aloud, already turning toward the kitchen. I was not snooping. I was being a mother, returning what didn't belong to me. The screen woke up before I could set it down. Don't worry, love. I'll put the old woman in a nursing home. I stopped breathing. I stopped. The words felt practiced, almost casual, like a reminder on a calendar. I read them again, slower this time, as if pace might soften the meaning. It didn't. Another message slid up beneath it. Once she signs the medical paperwork, everything else will be easy. Medical paperwork. Not a suggestion, not a conversation. A step already planned. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created to convey lessons about family, emotions, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. I am Eleanor Walsh. I am 72 years old. I raised my daughter alone after her father died. I paid off this house with 40 years of school counseling paychecks and quiet discipline. I taught children how to speak when they were afraid. I never imagined I would become the subject of a plan whispered between my own child and her husband. From the kitchen, Miranda laughed. A light laugh. Normal. The sound of someone who believed nothing was wrong. Mom, she called. Did you find my phone? Yes, I said. My voice surprised me. It didn't shake. It was right here. I placed the phone exactly where it had been. Screen dark now. Obedient and silent. I did not look at Grant's name again. I did not scroll. I did not cry. Something inside me settled. Instead, heavy and cold. I realized then that this was not about care, or worry, or love. This was about removal, about access, about decisions made without me because they believed I would accept whatever was handed down. I walked to my bedroom and closed the door. My hands were steady. My thoughts were not loud. The woman who would have confronted them, demanded explanations, begged for decency, did not follow me into that room. What followed was not anger. It was clarity, and clarity, I would learn, is far more dangerous. Miranda stood in my doorway 8 months earlier with swollen eyes and a practiced steadiness in her voice. Just a little while, Mom, until Grant gets back on his feet. Grant nodded beside her. We'll be out before you know it. I believed them because I had always believed my daughter. The first change was small. We'll take the back bedroom. Grant said it makes sense for Lucas. Then the second, Mom, we'll move the desk. He needs space to study. By the third week, my sewing room was a storage closet and my evenings were scheduled around someone else's television. Miranda, I said one night, holding the electric bill. This looks higher than usual. She didn't look up from her phone. It's winter, Mom, heating costs more. Then she smiled. I'll cover it with the household account. The household account. My account. The one I had opened years ago for groceries and emergencies. Miranda had the card. Grant had the card. I had the statements. Grant liked to joke. Careful, Eleanor, he said once when I asked where my mail had gone. You're getting forgetful. He laughed like it was harmless. Miranda laughed too. Softer. I did not. Lucas changed in quieter ways. At dinner, he said, Mom says you shouldn't worry about bills anymore. It's stressful for people your age. He kept his eyes on his plate, as if the words didn't belong to him. Miranda, I said. Did you tell him that? She shrugged. He worries about you. Privacy vanished. Next. Doors knocked on without waiting. My calendar rearranged. We're having friends over, Miranda announced once. It'll be good for you company. I began asking permission in my own kitchen. Is it all right if I make tea? Grant answered for her. We're almost done here. I noticed my name being replaced. She. They said. Your mom? Not Eleanor, not mine. By the time I realized what was happening, the house still had my deed, my mortgage long paid, my signature on every repair. Yet my voice carried less weight than anyone else's. I had not handed over the keys. I had handed over trust. Miranda said it while handing me a mug, her tone careful, almost rehearsed. Mom, have you ever thought about places with nurses on site just for safety? I looked at her over the rim. Safety from what? She waved a hand. Falls. Confusion. Things that happen when people live alone. Then quickly, I'm not saying now, just thinking ahead. Grant joined in from the table. It's responsible, Eleanor. Planning early. You always taught Miranda that. I set the mug down. Planning what exactly? Options, he said. No pressure, just options. That word came back later. Sharper. 2 nights after that, I woke to voices drifting from the living room. Grant's voice was low, impatient. Miranda's was hushed, urgent. We can't wait forever, Grant said. Before winter. That's the window. Miranda sighed. I know. I'm trying to ease her into it. Easing doesn't matter if the paperwork isn't ready, he replied. Once it's signed, the rest is logistics. Paperwork, not conversation, not consent. The next morning, I took out the trash. On top, folded too neatly to be accidental, was a brochure, a smiling couple on the front. Inside, a checklist, intake forms, medical authorization, financial arrangements. I read the name twice to be sure I wasn't imagining it. I carried it back inside and placed it on the counter. Miranda, I said when she walked in, is there something you want to tell me? She glanced at the paper and froze for half a second too long. Where did you find that in my trash? Grant stepped in. It's nothing. Information. You're reading too much into it. I met his eyes. It has a move-in timeline. Miranda's voice softened. Mom, please don't get upset. We're just trying to help. By deciding dates, I said, by preparing forms. A silence stretched, not confusion, calculation. Later that afternoon, Grant said it plainly, as if it were settled. We should aim to have everything sorted before winter. That's when transitions are hardest. I nodded once. That makes sense. They heard agreement. I heard the clock start. By the time I went back to my room, I understood something with painful clarity. This was not a worry forming. It was a schedule already in motion. I started with facts, not feelings. Feelings had made me generous. Facts would keep me alive. The house deed was in the metal file under my bed, exactly where it had been since I paid off the mortgage 12 years earlier. My name alone. No additions, no amendments. I ran my finger over it once, then set it aside. The car title came next, also mine. I remembered Grant saying, we'll just use it during the week. You don't really drive much anymore. I remembered agreeing because it sounded reasonable at the time. The accounts took longer. I logged in slowly, checking access histories. Miranda had permission to view and spend. Grant did not officially. Still, I could see patterns. Groceries, gas, then charges that were neither when I printed the statements. The printer hummed too loudly. What are you doing? Miranda's voice snapped from the doorway. I turned too fast. Paper slid across the desk. For a moment, we both stared at them. Just organizing, I said, keeping my tone light. I've been meaning to put things in order. Her eyes flicked to the headings. Account numbers, dates, my name. You don't need to worry about that, she said. I've been helping you. I know, I replied. You always have. The relief on her face was immediate. Careless. She smiled. See, I told Grant you were overthinking things. She left. I waited until I heard her footsteps fade before I looked again. That was when I noticed what was missing. The folder with my insurance papers was thinner. The copy of my will was gone, not the original, just the copy I kept for reference. At dinner, Grant said casually, you should really let us handle this stuff. It's a lot to manage. I nodded and passed the bread. Lucas said, Mom says it's better when adults take care of complicated things. I am an adult, I said gently. They laughed like I was joking. That night, I put everything back where it belonged. I smoothed the bedspread. I left the light on. I made sure nothing looked disturbed. Inside, the decision settled fully for the first time. I would not argue. I would not announce. I would not ask permission to protect what was already mine. They assumed I wouldn't notice. They were wrong. And from that moment on, I stopped letting them see what I was thinking. I didn't call my daughter. I didn't call my grandson. I called the one person who had known me long enough to hear the truth without trying to soften it. Vivian, I said when she answered, I need you to listen. not fix anything.
She paused.
That bad?
Yes.
I told her about the message, the paperwork. The deadline whispered like a secret already agreed upon. When I finished, she said quietly, "You're not imagining this." "I know."
"Then you're going to need a witness," she replied.
"And you're going to need it soon." That was the first call. The second was harder. I sat at my desk, phone in my hand, listening to it ring, wondering how many years I had spent teaching people to advocate for themselves without ever believing I would need to do it alone. Douglas Brennan, the voice said, calm, older, unhurried. "My name is Eleanor Walsh." I said, "I think my family is trying to take control of my life." He didn't interrupt. He asked for details, dates, words used, who had access to what. When I mentioned the intake brochure and the copy documents, he stopped me. "That is elder financial exploitation," he said plainly. The word exploitation landed heavier than I expected. "You're not accusing," he continued. "You're describing behavior. The law recognizes patterns like this." "What do I do?" I asked. "We start quietly," he said. "First, revoke access to any accounts that are yours. Second, secure your assets so no one can move them without your consent. Third, prepare a lawful removal if they're living in your home under false assumptions." "I don't want to fight." I said, "Then don't start one." He replied, "Silence is not weakness. It's strategy." He explained timelines, steps, what to document, and what not to mention. He never raised his voice. He never rushed me. When the call ended, I sat still, my hands resting flat on the desk. The house was loud with voices that did not include me. Laughter floated down the hall, careless and confident. I stood and smoothed my sweater. At dinner, Grant talked about plans. Miranda nodded along. Lucas scrolled on his phone. I smiled. I passed the dishes. I agreed with things that didn't matter. Inside, the shape of my next move was already forming. I chose not to confront them. I chose to prepare. And for the first time since that sentence appeared on the screen, I felt something steady rise beneath the fear. I went to the bank while Miranda was still asleep and Grant was pretending to look for work. The teller recognized me.
"Good morning, Ms. Walsh."
"Good morning," I said. "I'd like to open new accounts today." She glanced at the screen. "All of them." "All of mine," I said. "And I need access changed immediately."
She didn't ask why.
She slid papers across the desk and said we can transfer everything legally by end of day.
"Do it," I said.
I cancel the access cards connected to my daughter. She nodded once, effective immediately. My phone buzzed before I reached the parking lot. "Mom," Miranda said, bright and casual. "Did you move money around?" "My card isn't working." "I reorganized," I replied. "It was overdue." There was a pause.
"You didn't tell me. I didn't need to."
She laughed, thin and uncertain.
"Okay, just checking."
At home, I changed passwords slowly, carefully. Email, banking, utilities, anything that had ever been shared because trust felt easier than boundaries. Grant knocked on my door. "Internet's acting strange." "I updated security," I said. "It should be stable soon." He frowned.
"We usually handle that."
"I'm handling it now." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "All right." I called the locksmith from the number Douglas had written down. "Tomorrow morning," I said first thing. "That works," the man replied. "Any special instructions?" "Yes," I said. "No spare keys." That evening, Grant talked louder than usual. "We should streamline things," he said to Miranda, glancing at me. "Less confusion." Miranda nodded. "Mom, you don't have to worry. We've got it." I passed the salt. "I'm not worried." Lucas looked up. "Are we going somewhere this weekend?" "No," I said. "You're staying right where you are." Grant smiled, misreading me. "See, everything's fine." I smiled back, small and polite. No arguments followed. No warnings were given. I washed my plate and dried it myself. I folded my clothes and packed what mattered. I slept without checking my phone. By the time morning came, the pieces were already moving in the direction I had chosen. I had stopped explaining. And with that, the balance shifted quietly, completely, and for good. I wasn't there to hear the first knock of panic. I learned it later from the voicemail Miranda left when the confidence finally cracked. "Mom," she said, breathless. "The key isn't working." She tried again. I knew she would. Grant's voice cut in sharp. "Try the other one." Silence. Then a door rattling. Then her voice lower. "The garage is empty." By the time they reached their phones, I was already on the road. I let it ring. I let it ring again. The second voicemail came fast. My card was declined. Miranda said, "I'm at the store. Call me back." Grant took the third call. "This isn't funny. Eleanor, the accounts are showing 0.
0.
The words sounded dramatic until it wasn't. The money had never been hers. It had been mine, routed through a card I had allowed her to use. I had turned off the tap.
The sink went dry.
They found the notice taped inside the window. Legal language, clear dates, 30 days to vacate. A number for my attorney. No explanation in my handwriting. No apology. Lucas texted once. "Grandma, what's happening?" I didn't answer him either. "Not yet." Grant shouted into Miranda's phone, his voice breaking through the speaker.
"She can't do this."
"The house is ours." Miranda whispered back. "It was never ours." I imagined her standing there, keys in her hand that no longer opened anything. I imagined the moment it settled, the slow understanding that nothing had been stolen, nothing had been taken. Access had simply been revoked. Another voicemail followed, thinner now. "Mom, please, we need to talk." I drove past the turn I used to take every morning. I kept going. By the time they realized I wasn't coming back, that I hadn't left a forwarding address or a note on the fridge, the day had already moved on without them. Work calls missed, plans canceled, assumptions collapsing one by one. I did not disappear in anger. I disappeared with intention. When the phone finally went quiet, the silence felt earned. We met in a small conference room, neutral and quiet. Douglas Brennan sat at the end of the table with a legal pad and a pen he never rushed to use. Miranda came in first, eyes red, jaw tight. Grant followed, already standing too close to me. Lucas hovered by the door, uncertain. Douglas nodded once. "This meeting is on the record." I took out my phone. My hands didn't shake. "I'm going to read something," I said. Grant scoffed. "This is unnecessary." I read it anyway. "Don't worry, love. I'll put the old woman in a nursing home." Miranda inhaled sharply. "Mom, you don't understand the context." I scrolled. "Once she signs the medical paperwork, everything else will be easy." Grant leaned forward. "You invaded our privacy." "But you planned my removal," I said. "We're even." "We were helping," Miranda said, tears spilling now. "You live alone." "We were scared." Douglas looked up. "Helping requires consent." Grant's voice hardened. "She's confused. She forgets things. We were trying to be responsible." Lucas spoke before I could stop him. "Dad told me to ask Grandma if she felt lonely. Mom said it would make her think it was her idea." Miranda turned on him. "Lucas, stop." Douglas set his pen down. "Coaching a minor to influence an elder's living decisions is a serious concern." Grant laughed, sharp and defensive. "You're exaggerating." Douglas didn't raise his voice. "What you described fits elder financial exploitation, planning control of housing, finances, and medical decisions without consent." Miranda reached for me. "Mom, please, we can fix this." I moved my chair back. "Fixing it would require you to admit what you did." Grant shook his head. "We won't be threatened."
"I'm not threatening you," I said.
"I'm declining reconciliation." Lucas whispered. "Grandma, I'm sorry." I nodded to him. "I know." Douglas closed his pad. "Any further contact should go through my office." Miranda opened her mouth, then closed it. Grant stared at the table. Lucas watched me like he was seeing me for the first time. I stood. This was the only conversation I allowed, and I left them there with the truth, unsoftened and complete. It arrived quietly, not with sirens or shouting, but with letters and appointments and names read aloud in calm voices. Douglas called first. "The court issued an order this morning." He said Grant is barred from managing or accessing elder finances. Any elder indefinitely. I closed my eyes once. And Miranda? She's been flagged for investigation. He replied, it doesn't presume guilt. It ensures scrutiny. Miranda called me that afternoon. Her voice was tight, controlled. They questioned my work. My supervisor asked if I needed time off. I'm sure that was uncomfortable. I said, you could stop this. She said, you could tell them it was a misunderstanding. I told the truth, I replied. That's what stopped it. Grant left a message that night. The first without anger.
We're behind on rent, he said.
Just until I find something steady. I didn't return it. The consequences spread the way truth does when it's finally allowed air. Neighbors stopped asking how I was holding up and started asking why Miranda looked so tired. The church committee postponed her role. Invitations thinned. Conversations ended earlier. Lucas came to see me once alone. He stood in the doorway like he used to when he was younger. I moved my things. He said, I'm staying with a friend for now. You don't owe me updates, I said. I know, he replied. I just wanted you to hear it from me. We sat across from each other, without reaching. They keep saying you ruined everything, he added. I didn't ruin anything, I said. I stopped pretending. He nodded.
Slow.
That's what I thought. Miranda tried one last time. She showed up unannounced. Eyes swollen, voice pleading. Mom, please just help us get through this. I didn't raise my voice. Helping would mean absorbing consequences that aren't mine. She stared at me like I had changed languages. You're choosing this. I'm accepting it, I said. She left without shouting. Grant didn't come at all. I went back inside and closed the door. Not in anger, not in fear, in recognition that rescuing them again would only teach them the same lesson twice. This time, the boundary held. The landlord slid the keys across the desk and said, Welcome home, Ms. Walsh. I thanked him and wrote my name carefully the way I used to when signatures meant responsibility, not surrender. The place was small, close to downtown Asheville, close enough to walk to the library and the grocery store without asking anyone's permission that first morning. I made coffee the way I liked it. No commentary, no reminders, no one rearranging my cabinets because they knew better. I sat at the table and listened to nothing. It felt like safety. Vivian called. You settled? Yes, I said. Good, she replied. You sound like yourself again. Later that week, Douglas checked in. No new filings, no contact without counsel. Thank you, I said. You held your line, he replied. Most people don't. I hung up and folded laundry in silence that didn't press down on me. It held me up. I thought about what I had learned, not as a speech, not as advice, but as something earned. Love that demands silence is not love. Help that removes choice is not help. Family that requires self-erasure will keep asking for more until there is nothing left. Boundaries are not punishments. They are maps back to dignity. Miranda did not call again. Grant did not apologize. Lucas sent a short message once. I'm doing okay. I answered. I'm glad. Near the end of the day, I sat by the window and felt the calm settle fully. I had not punished anyone. I had stopped paying the price for their comfort with my life. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on the importance of boundaries and self-advocacy. Your voice matters, and choosing yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. I turned off the light and went to bed without rehearsing explanations. Tomorrow would arrive without negotiations. The quiet around me was not empty. It was owned. I lived inside it with my name intact, my choices intact, and my future no longer up for debate.